All right, so it's probably time to work on what drew me the most to this project, and that is the Spencer and the Reticule. The little daisies on the Spencer, they got me. The minute Penelope walked on screen with this outfit, it got me. And I am so excited to show you how I made the Spencer and to show you the final thing. I also made the Reticule. I originally was gonna try and make some gloves, but I bit off way more than I can chew, so I never even ended up starting the gloves. If you want to see part 1 of this series where I make the dress, then I'll go ahead and I will link the video somewhere up here as well as down there in the description box. But with all of that, let's get started. Okay, so the front is where we are going to be doing the most changes. So I've already gone ahead and I have traced the bodice pattern I used for Penelope, and then I remarked the darts from my block onto this. So the first thing we're going to have to do is figure out how much of an overlap we want. I'm thinking about 2 inches. So let me just pull up the actual picture. There we have it. So it looks like maybe 3 inches is going to be more right. So there we have got a 3-inch overlap. I'm also going to go ahead and lower this by about 1 inch. So that way it will cover the waistband of my dress. Okay, so now from here we can decide how long we want this little crossover. To me it doesn't look like it's that big. Maybe like 2.5 inches. Maybe 3. So I'm going to start with... Wow, my focus is awful today. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and we'll do 3 for now. Because I can always shorten it. And then, so most of the neckline shows. So I think... at the very least, the curve here shows. So I think I need to do around there. It's hard because of the way the strap is for this bodice to really make sure you're getting the right. I think it needs to be a little straighter. So I think I do need to take this down a little bit more. That seems more right. So that gives me right about 2. So I think this is the shape we're going to go with for now. And we will do a really quick mock-up. My back pieces should more or less look the same, at least for this stage. The main thing is just going to be I'm going to have to add a little bit of ease to each of them. And I'm going to do that just by splitting them a little bit and then opening them up about probably 1/4 inch. That might be a little bit too much. Okay, so in order to add the ease, I'm actually going to add it to the arm. I'm going to do this. And then take some scrap. So what this is going to do is this is going to make these pattern pieces just slightly larger than my previous ones in a way that'll let it fit nicely over the bodice I already made. I think I just need to add, let's see, if I add 1/8 of an inch, that'll be 1/4 of an inch around the top. I think that's all I need to add, because I have several pieces. And you don't want to add too much ease because then it'll be way too big. And this will also give it a little bit of more room for the sleeve, since I already have a sleeve under this. I'm going to go ahead and grab all my other pieces and add this 1/8 of an inch ease to each of them, and then I'll get it cut out of some muslin or some scrap fabric and we'll see what we got. Alright, so first fitting. Keep in mind, I cannot fully hook myself into this dress by myself, so I only have the waist hooked, so the neckline's a little loose. But it's fine. It works for what we need. Anyways, so I did my muslin mock-up, and honestly, I'm pretty surprised. My overlap definitely needs to get taken in. I did too much overlap. I can probably take like 1 inch off of that overlap. I also think I just need to get rid of like all the ease. Basically all of it. I don't really think I actually need it. So I might keep some of it just because once I go in with my actual materials, it's going to be a little bit thicker. I think I'll keep the ease I added for under the arm for the sleeve and arm side like ease. But I think especially my center back, what I added for ease can go away. And I think the front ease that I did is what's causing this little puckering. It's the right length to cover this waistband. Yeah, and then the back, the only thing is I did forget on the back that I was going to raise the back neckline a little bit. So we'll go back in and we will redraw the higher back, but it's not going to go up that much. Maybe just like 1/2 inch. I don't want it like too high, especially the way this crosses. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the mock-up, and it's all things I don't feel like I need to do a second mock-up, and I can hold on to this one to test the sleeves. I might just sew a small seam in the back to take out that little bit of ease. But yeah, okay, this is going to be easier than I thought. So that's the plan. Let's get started. So basically, this is the sleeve that we used, or I used, for the dress for Pen, and this is the gathered sleeve. So I want the Spencer's sleeve to still be bigger than the sleeve for the dress. It needs to be bigger and it needs to be poofier. So I don't want it this small. I want it probably somewhere in between these two sizes. So what I'm going to do is I am going to measure this edge and then the outer sleeve edge and figure out what number will be like halfway in between the two of those. And then I'm also going to I'll do the same for the bottom edges just for fun. But I don't think I'm going to do halfway. I think I'm going to keep the bottom edge a little bit bigger than this one, but maybe not quite half. Okay, so the puff sleeve has a 31.5 inch like armscye. I don't know if armscye is technically the right term for when it's the sleeve cap. It has a 31.5 inch sleeve cap, whereas the sleeve I used for the dress has a 20 inch sleeve cap. So I'm just gonna make things easy for myself and say that's a difference of 10 inches. So that means I need to make the puff sleeve smaller by 5 inches. For the bottom edge, it's 26 and 14. And again, because I still want the bottom sleeve to be a little bit on the poofy side, but less so than the top. I don't know, we'll go with the 12 inch, which would give us 6 inch difference. But I might do that a 7 inch difference. That sounds about right to me. Okay, so we are going to divide this into 3 segments. Middle, and then we'll just say 5. And now I gotta do some more math. Okay, so since I'm doing 3 sections, this doesn't divide super easy, but we're gonna do 1.5 inch on each at the top and 2.25 inch on the bottom. I'm gonna slice these open. Okay, and then we're going to do an overlap at the top. of 1.5 inches. At the bottom, we are going to pivot this. So that way it's hopefully, I'm just going to do 2 inches for now. I know I said I was going to do 7 inches, but we're going to start with 6, and then I'll just take it in more if I feel like it. Let's double check here. It's about 1.5 still. Okay, and then we're gonna repeat this for my other 2 slits. Okay, and with that, now we just gotta smooth out all of our stuff. Okay, so there is our new temporary puff sleeve. I'm still not sure I like this top edge. I'm gonna fiddle with this a little bit more, but you get the idea. We've slashed and spread, and now we have a new, slightly smaller puff sleeve that hopefully will do the trick. So, wish me luck. Okay, so I got my sleeve all cut out and sewn in, and I'm very happy with it. I did it really quick and dirty, so it's not like perfectly balanced. So the front is a lot more gathered than the back is. But anyways, it does the trick. So what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to leave the fullness at the top the same, but I think I'm going to take the fullness at the bottom in just a little bit more so it's slightly less gathered. But beyond that, I'm really happy with the shape and the size. It's the perfect amount longer than my undersleeve, but very happy with it, which means I can go ahead and I can get it cut out. So I'll make those few minor alterations to my pattern, and then we're ready to move on. I'm going to go ahead and trace out my pattern pieces and then add my seam allowances around the edges. The neckline's going to get about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, while the rest of the seams are going to get 1/2 inch. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I have cut out all 3 layers of fabric for the bodice portion of the Spencer. So what I have is I have this cotton gingham that I'm using for my outer fashion layer. I have some linen that I'm going to baste to the gingham as an inner lining, just to give it a little bit more like weight and body. And then I have this pink cotton that I'm going to use for a lining. So the linen and the pink cotton lining are actually both from my stash, so I didn't have to buy them for this project. Normally I'd look for more of a heavier weight linen to try and give this a little bit of body, but this is what I had in my stash. And honestly, all 3 layers have a really nice thickness to them, so the thicker linen probably really isn't even needed. With all the layers cut out of the bodice, I'm going to go ahead and start basting each of the gingham and linen layers together, so that way we can go ahead and get started on construction. First thing is to prep my front pieces by sewing down my darts with a quick back stitch. For the Spencer seams, I'm going to use a butted whip stitch, where you fold down your seam allowance, put your seams together, and then sew through both of them using a whip stitch. This is actually really secure and makes a really nice flat seam. Alright, so I went ahead and I dyed my little pink daisies, so they're darker now, and I'm really happy with the color. I think this is a really good color for this. It shows up just enough, but it isn't too much different from my flowers. Stella jumped on the table if you saw it move. Oh. Please don't eat my daisies. Is that mine? No, they're mine. But anyways, I have all these dyed and ready to go, and I have my white ones. I tried to dye the little tassels. I got these white tassels for Penelope's Reticule back when I thought they were white, but recently the costume designer posted a behind-the-scenes image of her costume fitting for this one. And you can see very clearly in it that the tassels are pink. This pink, it got really purple
and then it like the dye all stuck in like the glue on the tassel. So it looks awful. So I have to go to the store anyways to get the drawstrings for the reticule. So I'll look around for more tassels because I know how to make tassels. I really just don't feel like making tassels for this project. But anyways, so that's where we're at with the flowers. So we're going to get started on attaching them to the Spencer. Alrighty, so I started working on doing the little daisies last night. So the shoulder straps haven't been sewn yet. I've just done these princess seams and then the side seams. And I decided to add these little pearls to the center just because I thought it'd be like a really cute extra thing to do, especially because in the show, the little flower appliques on Penelope Spencer, the pink ones have a white center. And mine don't. So it adds just that little extra that it's missing from the show, and I love embellishment, so I thought it'd be a cute little additional touch. But I went ahead and I put it on my dress form just kind of to get an idea of what it's looking like, and I am super excited. This is turning out super cute. I have some pinned already, and I just need to go ahead and sew them on, but that's where I'm at. So I'm gonna get the back, sides, and the fronts done. They probably won't be perfect. I'll probably go back and add some in later, but I wanted to get most of them sewn down before I add the lining, just so that way, you know, I'm hiding most of my stitches on the inside. So we'll go ahead and do a bunch on the sides and front, sew up the shoulder seams, and then I'll probably work on the sleeves before we line everything and do any finishing touches. Unlike the rest of my seams, I'm going to sew the shoulder seam down using a backstitch. This is actually my favorite way to sew down shoulder seams. I really like the way it looks.
Okay, so it is time for test fitting. I've got my hair all pinned up. It actually kind of looks like Regency adjacent, or at least like a Bridgerton like Regency adjacent. I dig it. But anyways, so got the dress on. Derek was home, so he was able to hook me up, and we're going to try on the Spencer. Right now it has no sleeves, no peplum, no lining. I have just pinned the hem and basted it down. Same thing for the neckline and the little thing on the overlap. So I'm a little worried it's going to be slightly too big, but I know that's just looking at my dress form, and my dress form's smaller than me, so hopefully it's okay. Okay, so I think I may pin this overlap. Okie doke. So I think the overlap is a little too long. I don't think it'll take it in much. Just like maybe a ½ inch, something along there. But otherwise, looks pretty good. I might do a tiny dart in the back neck because it gapes a little. Just a little tiny dart, and then put a flower or something over it to hide it. But I'm very happy with that. I think it's looking cute. I'm excited to add the sleeves and the little peplum and to finish the purse. Because I have the purse in pieces right now, so that'll be one of the next things I work on, is sewing the bottom to the back part. So, with this little fit check done, I am going to go ahead and take all of this off and keep on working. Probably the sleeves next. But I'll add that little dart in the back of the neckline, and then we'll see where we want to go from there. But good progress so far. Okay, so I decided first off I'm going to go ahead and do the peplum on the back before I start on the sleeves. So this is where we're at. This is the back. I might go back and add a few more flowers. So thought process with the peplum. I need to figure out how wide it's going to be. Hers doesn't go quite from underseam to underseam, so I think I'm going to do about halfway in between my side panels to side panels. And then I think I'm going to do about 4 inches long. I'm going to start with 4 because I can always
go back and make it shorter if needed. So let's get, I think these flowers are about my halfway points, which is about 11 inches. And then it has to get pleated in, so we're gonna double the measurement we took. So it is going to be about 22 inches on the inner circle, and then about 4 inches on the outer, and tapered to nothing on the sides. And that'll be the peplum. So I just need to decide if I want to sit down and actually pattern it out on pattern paper, or if I just want to draw it straight on my fabric. I might just draw it straight on my fabric, honestly. Yeah, that sounds like what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna do that first, and then we can stitch that bad boy on, and then I'll finally move on to the sleeves that I've been dreading and putting off. So I'm gonna get working on this and stop procrastinating like I have been for ever since I did my fitting earlier. Okay, so the peplum is definitely too long, but I cut out my little half circle shape and then gave it a quick rough pleat, and it's at least laying how I want it to. I haven't measured these pleats or anything, I just eyeballed them. But yeah, it's pretty much laying how I wanted it to. I just need to take it up. It's way too long. I honestly think here-ish is about as long as it should be. Like these pleats on the side, and these are like 4.5. So I did cut it out 6. So I think I'll take it up to 5 and we'll see from there. So I'll try 5 and then check it again and see, and 4.5, 4 might be a better option. And if you wanted to see, that's like what the shape looks like on both sides. All right, so I'll see you next time. Once the peplum is lined and pleated, it gets stitched down to the inside of the bodice. Peplum done, it's time to move on to the sleeves. I'm going to use this strip of bias as a sort of like band for the end of the sleeve. So I'm going to stitch it down after gathering it up a little bit and fold it over and whip stitch it down into place. When it comes to sewing the sleeve cap, I actually like to sew the ungathered part of the sleeve at the under down first, and then I can go in and gather up the sleeve cap and then stitch that one down into place. I find this gives me a lot more control over the gathers, and I make sure they get placed easier without worrying about a lot of pins. And there we have a finished sleeve in all her glory. Okay, now that I've got the sleeves in, which is the last like piece of the bodice, now it's time to get started on the lining. So in order to do this, instead of like with a normal lining, how you'd sew all your lining pieces together and then sew it along your edges and flip it all inside out, we are going to press the edges, like our seam allowance, over, so you can see here. And then I've gone ahead and pinned it all into place. And I'm gonna go around and whip stitch this down to the inside, and then we'll repeat it for all my other lining pieces. Once the bodice is fully lined, I go ahead and I sew some dress hooks down onto the overlap. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've cut out 3 layers for the bottom piece of the reticule. So I've got my pink gingham, some cotton canvas for a strength layer, and then the pink cotton for a lining. So I use the lid off of like an iced tumbler in order to get the size for the circle. I just traced that for my strength layer, and then I made this piece about 1/2 inch larger, and then this one 1/4 inch, like seam allowance all the way around. And then once I've got this done, I'm going to measure my circumference and then cut out a rectangular piece of the gingham that is the same size, like long as the circumference of these circles. And then that is going to be the more like body of the reticule. So I think I'm going to cut that out of these 2 layers so it'll be nice and finished on the inside. But we'll figure that out after I stitch the bottom. But I also got some of this pink cord to use for the like handles, I guess you would say, the drawstrings. This looks very similar to what they used in the show, which I think makes sense to me that they would just use something like this instead of making something else by hand. And then I know I said earlier that I wasn't going to make tassels. I couldn't find tassels I liked, so I caved and I got some pink embroidery thread that's pretty close to the color. This might be slightly warm, but I don't really care. So this is pretty close to the color it looked like their tassels were. So I'll make some quick and dirty tassels for the reticule too. So with that being said, let's get started trying to make this look nice so that way we can move on to finishing the reticule. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch around the edge of the cotton canvas in order to secure it down to the gingham. And then I'm going to cut out these little notches so that way I can fold over the edge. Edges folded over, I can place this on top of my pink lining and baste it real quick into place. And then I'm going to fold over the edge of the pink and pin it into place. What we're going to do to this is whip stitch around the edge in order to finish it off. Next, we gotta sew up the tube that makes up the body of the reticule. We're gonna do this with a running stitch, and once it's all folded up, we're gonna sew down all of our little daisies and their pearls. And then I'm gonna go ahead and line the inside of the reticule, much in the same way that I lined the bodice of the spencer. And at last it's time to join the tops and bottom of the spencer using a whip stitch. And with that, we are done. And this is definitely one of my favorite things I've made in a while. I mean, everything is just so cute and so pretty, and I felt wonderful wearing this. I felt adorable. So thank you for joining me on this little sewing adventure. I hope you enjoyed, and if you'd like, subscribe or like this video, and have a great day. Bye-bye!